question about colorism in the media, especially earlier this year with the film In the Heights as it relates to representation in that film. And specific to our research, what we did find is that Latinx professionals with darker skin were far less likely to say that their evaluations would flex their contributions. And some Latinx professionals with lighter skin may be seen as white.
This past week, if you have not caught this, we showed a little bit in the intermission. And, and I said this is the failing issues over at Disney. ESPN, failing news network, has been failing for many years now, has lost most of their viewership. ESPN is not ESPN anymore. ESPN has become ESPN Social. Social politics, they talk about politics, racism, all this nature, but meanwhile, they're promoting racism within their own company. People are tired of this. This is the reason why they've flocked away from networks like ESPN. You sit there and you talk for an hour on the politics of Colin Kaepernick and why should he kneel, not why should he kneel. But meanwhile, Colin Kaepernick, who is he now these days? He's just basically, he's just making money off this whole situation. You want to sit there and complain about the situation with cops and stuff like that. Well, take to the crime value that's going on in the neighborhoods. Have you stepped into those neighborhoods? No, not at all. Because you were raised by white parents. They probably told you to do this, or was it the girlfriend that told you to do these things? Because of all the bullshit that you see from him. I mean, you're comparing the NFL to slavery, but meanwhile, these guys are making money, making big dollars. Even if you're just a starter in the NFL. You're making some good bank money. You're making a couple of $100,000 a year, and that's without endorsements. And of course, Kaepernick is making millions off Nike and a couple of other endorsements still, and he's not playing sports. He's just doing politics. And this is what's happened at ESPN. This is what they talk about. They yanked on politics. They're trying to say, well, this person needs to be ahead of this person because of their color, and that is violent. I mean, right now, ESPN is violating labor rules to the situation. You say, well, they're a private company. Bullshit. Stop saying that they're a private company. There are rules. When you have an organization, you have a company, you have rules to go by. And you hear this day in, day out. When you hear sexual harassment or people file resorts because they're not getting promoted properly on there, you hear this constantly. And now recently we had somebody come forward and has it on recordings from the employees themselves. And we're talking not only white employees, we're talking black employees, Hispanics. We're talking a range gambit of employees who work for ESPN saying that there is blatant racism going on. That there are a lot of there's theft of finances is going on in here too. And that's one of the things that they listed, the person who's come forward on here. Here's a little bit of Project Veritas's from the other night on this.
Made to me at work, conversations that have been had in front of me at work, just blatantly racist, just blatantly complaining to me that we have 3 white hosts. And I'm like, what do you want me? Do you want me to leave? My work. I got to the point a couple weeks ago where I had to say to somebody, do you not know my work ethic? We've known each other for 4 years. Do I not deserve to be here?
As we just saw with the Maria Taylor and Rachel Nichols situation.
Exactly. And like I said, at the end of the day, they're choosing between us and social media reaction.
The BLM movement, the diversity, the racial and social justice, platforms that ESPN has propped it up, pushed forward, which every right to do that. But yet when you come here to work every day,
That's not how it is.
I can't look for them to do the right thing when it comes to social issues. We don't know what we're talking about. And we shouldn't comment on anything about it company-wide. There's no reason. We're not in the social business.
yeah, we weren't supposed to be.
If you want to look for comment, comfort on it, how about this? Go to church or read the newspaper.
And you could see it from the employees themselves. ESPN is a hotbed of racism in that company. And you would figure Disney, the way it is, would handle this and stop this from happening. No. Here's another segment of the Veritas.
To let the world see how the process of how ESPN and Disney is going to handle this situation. That's all.
And okay, is it? Help me understand that too. Just like, is it that because of what they're doing, you disagree with, so the world will see it? That's what the intention is.
I mean, it has no personal ideas or agenda for me. It's just to let people see how ESPN and Disney is handling the situation.
So you said this, and then the police show up at your home?
Yeah, so we had this meeting, and then 2 days later, I come home after my days off, and I had the police at my house.
You put something on Instagram or something that said, let's see what happens or something?
Oh, my gosh. I mean, did that sound like a threat?
No.
I mean, it's not...
It sounds like nothing.
Disney HR decides to call the PD. And basically goes over, the PD goes to his home, and they sit there and they said, why are we here? Why are we here? Because the police department doesn't really know why they're there, why that they're being called to a situation that doesn't deem them to be there. And it comes down to the brass tacks that all these corporations, people with these, how can I put it, these degrees in social justice that's been going on for many years have creeped into these corporations. This is why I tell you, and this is I keep telling you, you don't hire a person because of their color or their sexuality. You hire them for their experience. You know, you look for the best of the best for your company, and that's the way it does. Sometimes you'll take a chance on somebody that doesn't fall into your criteria because you might have seen something in them. You might have seen a spark in them that basically that you said, well, he might work. And it's happened to me. I've had supervisors tell me, look, I knew you had your experience, but I wasn't certain you were going to fit in here. So I took a chance on you. And I'm glad I did, because I see that your work performance is very good. And I wish I had 100 of it. And the many companies that I've been in, because of my work ethics. And this is my work ethics, not because I'm Hispanic, not because I'm a straight male. I have the experience that the company looked at me and says, I wish I can clone you and make 100 of you. And this is not little companies. This was big corporations that I worked for, that they respected the opinions I had. And some of them was in the retail industry where they sent me, and I kid you not, they sent me to conventions where they had their buyers go, and the buyers asked for my opinion on the products they were purchasing. And I told them, this is what needs to be done. I stood in the background in one meeting that I was invited to one particular company, and the head, and I'm talking about the head buyer for the entire corporation, knew my name, turned around and goes, oh, he's here. Let me ask him what he thinks of these products. This is someone who knew I worked for the company and knew I worked there and had the experience. That's what having an employee that works very well for you, that's what it means to have one. Not because of their color of their skin, not because of their sexuality, what their pronouns are, what side of the aisle that they believe in, who they voted for in the last election. All of that is against the rules in the state and federal. And you can look these up. You cannot discriminate for any of these things. If you're sitting there and it says, I have to hire X amount of Asians or X amount of Hispanics or X amount of blacks in my job because the company says so, that is violating the rules as far as for employment. You hire someone to bring praise to your company, to bring the money to your company, that basically that, you know, you bring the customers, if it happens to be like a retail, or to create a product in a factory that someone will purchase, or to create a TV show that someone will enjoy on there, that they will praise you for the product onto there, not because of what they look like. Think about that for a minute. Think about what's going on at ESPN right now. Think about what's going on in Disney. Is this going on at Disney? Yes, it is. Absolutely, 110%. Because if their HR is doing this at ESPN, they're doing it throughout the company. Abigail Disney is right when she sits there and saying the employees are not being treated correctly in the company, that they're not being treated. And that's why she's fighting. She has that documentary out. I haven't seen the documentary yet, but there is that documentary out that discussed the ins and outs of what's going on in Disney. A lot of these people need to be fired. ESPN is coming down to its end. As this goes further, you know, ESPN is probably on its way out. People are going elsewhere for their sports. And since I have to pay for it these days, and I can go over to Fox, which is now available for free on Tubi TV on a lot of their sports stuff, I'd rather not pay for something of that nature. And you saw, and this is the one that gets me. This is the one that gets me heavily, because this pissed me off the most. When somebody, well, then let me play the video.
Specific to our research, what we did find is that Latinx professionals with darker skin were far less likely to say that their evaluations reflect their contributions. And some Latinx professionals with lighter skin may be seen as white, whether or not they identify that way. And these perceptions lead them to being treated more like insiders.
When you distinguish, and this is what pisses me off. One, they use Latinx, which I find that very discriminatory. I do not identify myself as Latinx. I am a Latin, I'm a Hispanic, I'm a Puerto Rican, and I'm an American. Don't give me these terminologies that are created by someone who isn't Hispanic. And then determine the differences between someone who's darker than me, Hispanic, to lighter. That comparing me, and I'm a light-skinned Hispanic, that you're comparing me to, and it's the same thing with the Asians, that we are as bad as the white people. You know, many years ago, and I'm going to bring this one up. I think SNL called this years ago. Garrett Morris and the late Julian Bond, the civil rights activist Julian Bond, had a bit together many years ago. I think it was in the 70s on this. And listen to this. The joke that they say that light-skinned black people are smarter than dark-skinned light people. And Garrett was like, say what? You saw that on there. Even though that's a joke. This is what they're saying today. Today they're telling you this. How stupid is that? That someone in a corporation just sit there and say, comparing light-skinned Hispanics to white people. And they're doing the same thing to Asians as well. That is the most racist thing I have heard from anyone in this business. And it just gets worse. There's more videos coming out on this from Veritas. It's just going to go deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole with this company. And Disney, yes, Disney is responsible for this. Chapek and all the rest of them down the line, they are responsible for this. This needs to stop.